There is mass looting going on all over the Eastern Caribbean, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands, and in French possessions as well. There is mass looting going on all over Florida, and there have been arrests all over Florida. If you tabulate all of them together, it's got to be in the hundreds. Yesterday it was 19 booked confirmed arrests, but if you look at all the arrests and all the articles I have in counties and cities all over Florida, it is in the hundreds. But the police have been doing a pretty good job, along with citizens, clamping down on it very, very quickly. Anarchy in the streets after Hurricane Irma frees prisoners. Frees prisoners and sparks mass looting. There's your headline out of the Metro. So we're going to be chronicling all of this coming up here in just a few minutes. And notice that people that cover the looting are being called racist because when you look at the videos from the Caribbean to Florida, it is to a person, black folks. Florida looting crackdown is white supremacy, claims author Sarah Jaffe. That's Fox News. So Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent and New York cop, says, yes, now it's apparently racist if you point a camera at who's committing a crime. Now think about this. That scumbag that went into that black church last year, Roof, and shot and killed 9 people, the media said all white people were guilty for that. No, we're not. And if a minority of black people have been culturally trained and taught to go out and loot and rob during a crisis, you don't blame the majority of black folks either. But you certainly don't blame any group for what other folks do. But you've got to ask, why is it in the LA riots, you name it, predominantly black folks? And it's because culturally it was sold as a form of rebellion in the 50s and 60s by communists, teaching through agitator propaganda that going out and looting and stealing and killing white people is an act of rebellion and revolution. We've had him on the show before, the head of the Black Panther Party, new Black Panther Party, Houston. He's been in the Houston Chronicle. You can search it, saying, don't loot in the black area, go loot in the white area, go rob, go mug white people as an act of resistance. So this is the systemic cultural racism that's being pushed by the left and the Ford Foundation and the universities, where they say, oh, we're going to have a weekend with no white people at the college, and we're going to have no white people allowed on the Commons area this weekend to teach you about discrimination, when only less than 1% of descendants in this country's family ancestors had slaves, and most white people didn't get here till after the Civil War and have no connection to it. A lot of them came from Eastern Europe and Western Europe, where they were still serfs, sharecroppers tied to the land, slaves who could be locked up in the stocks and whipped if they didn't do their work, just like black slaves. There were some areas of Germania, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, that didn't end slavery in Germany until the 1880s. What? Let me test my memory. When was serfdom abolished in the final states in Austrian-Hungarian Empire? 1882. Look it up. Let's see if my memory serves. When was serfdom abolished in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire? 1880s. Let's see if my memory serves. I think it's 1882. And then it was illegally carried out somewhere until, I think, 1890. But I mean, the point is, that's never taught. There it is. In the Austrian Empire, serfdom was abolished in 1781. Serfdom Cafe continued until 1848. Serfdom was abolished in Russia in the 1860s. In the United Nations, 1956, Supplementary Convention on Abolition of Slavery also prohibits serfdom as a form of slavery. Okay, well, that's a general Wikipedia. If you go to the last, what was the last Germanic kingdom, because they were all little states, to abolish serfdom? And it was in the 1880s. Because they had to have a big, almost a war over it just to stop it. But again, people don't know this is going on, that Russia didn't abolish it till 1860. They don't understand that. They just think it's something going on in America. Slavery's still happening in Africa. It's still happening in the Middle East in some areas. They still have sex slaves in the Middle East. They're called harems. You always hear about women getting tricked to fly over to Saudi Arabia and they never come back. They get chained up in a sex dungeon. Then they get killed. But that's okay. Just beat America and the West over the head, telling everybody that we invented slavery. You know who the Romans' favorite slaves were? People out of Gaul and people out of Germania and all those areas. They were the slaves being brought in, not Africans. There have been more white slaves in European history than there have been black slaves. And I'm not defending any of it, but I didn't have anything to do with it.